All right, today is June 8th, 2024. This is the first recording of Late Night in Wraeclast. We're going to be dragging some people in from the Path of Exile public, seeing what they have to say. We're going to be asking them their name, where they're from, and what they want to talk about. And we're gonna take it from there. Hopefully, we get some varied opinions, some interesting topics to discuss, and hopefully we'll keep the crazies to a minimum. As always, this is a free podcast. It is anyone could listen to it and anyone could be on it. The public, you just have to be on the lookout for when I make the announcements for when the podcast will be, and there will be a staging area in Discord that you're going to get dragged into, and then from there, it's just like your standard coast-to-coast radio show. Talk about some stuff, see how it goes back and forth, and if anyone wants to hop on in, they can. All right, looks like we have our first person coming in. He's a regular. We'll drag her ass in, see what she says. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wow, fantastic. Oh, you're invisible for me. Nope, that's not you. There you are. Well, you're in your chair now.
Great.
Yeah, what's your name? Where are you from? What do you want to talk about?
I'm Quelm. I'm from Wraeclast.
Okay.
So I wrote a couple topics down.
Uh-oh.
First thing, I feel like everyone would agree with this. Why don't divine orbs have fragments?
It's a great question. I don't know. It
makes no sense.
It's a bit strange. When they made the change from exalts to divines to effectively swap their drop rates and swap their values, you would have assumed they would have made fragments for them. I guess maybe they think that there is enough divination cards, or there's enough of a premium on them that they don't want to have people nickel and diming them. But
yeah, I mean, if they give us a league mechanic that drops 70 a map potentially, I guess maybe they're avoiding the problem. But I don't feel like it's always going to happen, right?
For the inverse, if they wanted to add value to Exalteds, they could remove the shards from them if they think that's what adds value to them, right? If they're saying that we want there to be a premium on premium currency, and then
same with the nulls, same with all the fragments, right?
Anything that's a fragment of, yeah.
I think they're hidden on most filters pretty quick anyway.
Yeah.
Not for exalts or whatever, but all the lower ones.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like annuls are way too rare in the game.
Sure.
I feel like they talk about the close your eyes and slam it, mentality a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like annuls are that personified, and they need to be more common.
Yeah. Or maybe, because things like regrets are also pretty rare to drop, and so are regals. But because there's recipes for them and you could get them from vendors, maybe in div cards, maybe it's a lot easier to acquire them through secondary means, but there's not the same representation for annulments. So maybe there needs to be, a more advanced vendor. Because currently you could trade, a fusing. You can go all the way up the line from a chrome to a jeweler to an alt to a jeweler to a fusing to a chance to a scour to a regret, right?
Yep.
And that just stops there. They could do the same thing where, like, you can get a regal, maybe like 5 regrets for 1 regal, then like 10 regals for 1 annul, 10 annuls for an exalted.
I was going to say on the opposite end of the spectrum, like chaos to an X, like chaos to an exalt, or if maybe the ratio, if they are playing with the ratio, it could be fragments if they're not going to get rid of them. But I feel like access to currency, especially in SSF, we do get a lot of it, but I might get 15,000 like alterations, right? Or like 25k or whatever. I'm never going to touch them. And converting is such a hassle.
Yeah. Converting would be easy. So they just made a change last patch where you could do an entire inventory of one item through like a control shift click, but it only applies to the trade window.
Trade windows, yeah.
Which I don't get why they have, like, why have that stipulation and limitation.
That would be so useful.
Because it's the same technology. They could easily apply that to other places.
Also, one of the changes they made this league was changing how rare veiled. Well, the method to get veiled orbs.
Yeah.
And I feel like it super missed the mark. Like, I do genuinely feel like it completely deleted the mid-level crafting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
like
5% drop off
it wouldn't be
right
a problem.
now.
Yeah, like it wouldn't be a problem. But like, we had the league mechanic, so we could, get past it a little bit. But there's so much gear that is way worse just because of this change.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. I feel like most people would agree on that one. It's just a really, blind leading the blind kind of change.
So what would you do if you were in charge?
I feel like veiled orbs should just be a base game currency drop.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make it so they are only from that mechanic. Like, not just Katarina, but like any Jun mission. So make it so every single enemy can drop those.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Any other changes you'd make if you were in charge? At the top level, the tippy top? Talking like magic wand. You have a magic wand.
Magic wand. I think I would either delete T17s. Yeah, completely delete T17s and make Uber fragments drop from the non-Uber version of the boss.
Interesting. I'm not sure why, but for some reason, I am on the couch now and you are gone.
Well, that's my cue.
Are you on the second couch? You are on the second couch now. And I'm on the first couch and on the TV.
Great.
Well, you moved to the second couch. How'd you pull that off?
I don't know.
Do you jump much?
No. Well, to conclusions, maybe.
That was a quick answer. Of all the questions, that was the quickest answer. Was do you jump much? And you said no. You don't consider yourself a very physically active person?
Let's go back to PoE.
Okay.
What do you think about Wraeclast boots?
I like them. Good boots. Good for jumping. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like the removing the move speed affected them? Like,
no, not really.
Do you think that was a good change?
It didn't do anything. Everyone who was using them are still going to be using them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it made it so it's just they're not as good, I guess, for just any build to put on. You really only use them for builds that are involved in charges.
Stacking, yeah.
But I would have rather just seen them unnerfed and more rare, like they did with Defiance of Destiny. I think that change is fine. I just wish they would have announced it, but I think that change is fine. I'd rather things be T0 and be super fucking good than existing T0s be absolutely unusable.
What's going on with Ashes? Still nerfed version?
Yeah.
Still very rare from Uber only?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, I don't know. That to me is like a first pass, They've
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if we'll ever get a second pass, but that is like the first pass.
Also, they're doing a lot of changes this league for quality of life. I hope that they do something to synthesis maps, because they've been absolutely awful for, I don't know, it feels like years.
Synthesis is such a cool mechanic, and I just, or like even just a cool theme, like that kind of I don't want to say like energy steampunk kind of celestial whatever. And I don't think there's any quality of life change or change they could make to synthesis that doesn't make them look kind of dumb, is the problem. Because they can't say, like, imagine they said a quality of life, as part of their quality of life update, synthesized maps now drop synthesized items. Like, that's such a cooked sentence that I don't think they could say something like that, where it's like, hey, you know that how Uber, Cortex dropped synth bases, and we took that away? Well, we're giving it back. Now you could, like, praise us for returning the thing we took from you. So I don't think they could exactly do that. Like, they've made such a bad decision with that, and it was, like, in a totally mediocre spot before, and then they removed it. So I don't think there's any way they could add it back, and that doesn't make them look like incompetent in that decision.
I mean, I feel like you have to bite the bullet at that point, right? Like,
I would say as a as a company, they've made a tremendous game, but they feel like, I think they're unable to bite the bullet in any regard. I've, like, never seen them walk back any bad decision, really, without,
like, reservation changes, right?
Yeah, but anytime they make any sort of concession that they've made a catastrophic game design mistake, it's going to take a year to implement, and they're going to do it kicking and screaming the entire time. Like, it's like when you catch, like, a cat doing something bad, so you go to grab it, and on its way to grabbing it, it just starts fucking knocking shit off the table onto the floor and swiping at the bookshelves. Like, it is a kid throwing a tantrum. I don't think there's any scenario where they're going to revert a change like that was already fine and is now not fine, and then just make it back to being fine again without taking something. They only know how to take. They don't know how to give, I think, unequivocally. Like,
another really weird thing is, like, I feel like they caved to the pressure of like reward conversion on mobs, right? So, like, we used to be able to drop converted to flasks, converted to currency. I have no idea why they removed a bunch of them. Like, it is one of the most left field removals I've seen in a while.
I think a lot of it had to do with that, to me, was a band-aid change for Affliction, where things were getting such tremendous amounts of rarity and quantity. They didn't know how to fix it, so they just did something to temporarily resolve the issue. I don't think it's gonna, I'm sure it'll come back in some way, but yeah, I think it's the same thing with tier 17s, like in this league. Like, anything that had to do with crafting that could have been fixed or augmented or patched in this current league, basically there's no point because Necropolis was just better. Yeah. So they could just hold off on doing that until Necropolis was the 4-month band-aid on crafting, basically. So there's no need to change anything because you just can default to Necropolis.
So after the removal of Necropolis, I mean, depending on if we see any of the mechanics go core, let's just say they chop out all of Necropolis. We are going to lose access to the majority, if not all, ground drop fractured items. So, back to the days in which fracturing an item costs, 50 div or something. Yeah,
could be. Yeah, unless the new mechanic has fractured something also. Fracturing's like super expensive and also just a terrible process because it's a 1 in 4 at best.
Absolutely.
There's nothing you could do to make it not a 1 in 4. I mean, sometimes you can make it a 50-50 if you have an item that has 2 good mods.
2 good mods.
But if you're really trying to get, like, if you're trying to make like a +2 bow.
I've missed +2 arrows so many times.
Yeah, I mean, I've missed fractures like 10 times in a row. Like, it's...
yeah, it just wasn't worth it at that point.
Yep.
I'd rather farm the 50 to 150 joules.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of effort to fracture something, and or cost if you're in trade or solo self-found. Getting your own fracturing orbs takes a very long time. Scarabs currently make it way better, but that's now, so who knows what the state of the Harbinger Scarabs are going to be next league. Yeah, but if they stayed the same, it'd be pretty good, but who knows.
I really want them to delete, like, maybe 20 Scarabs out of there. Like, there's so many Scarabs that don't need to exist at all.
Yeah. It's just a large
You can
quantity of scarabs.
guarantee you can guarantee a ritual in your map. You literally are going to have it guaranteed just from having the ritual nodes anyway.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Any of the scarabs that guarantee a duplicative mechanic, as far as you can't have more than one. Like, for example, expedition. You're always going to have one expedition. There's no benefit to having a scarab that says you guarantee an expedition, because you're just never going to use it. So it's just like fodder. So I don't really know why those exist. For a lot of them.
Do you think... I'm wondering if this league mechanic is going to be outside of maps, because we've been in map, like having in-map mechanics for a little while.
No, it's just been one league. Well, Tota was out of maps.
Fair.
That was just a league ago.
I've been in standard too long.
That's fair. Tota was, I think, could have been the worst league of all time.
Oh
I
yeah, I
maybe.
literally just pushed that out of my brain.
Yeah.
I would definitely rather be in Sanctum.
I think Sanctum's better, but I don't think it's very good. Any mechanic that your build doesn't work in and requires you to make one specific build, one universally specific build to do the mechanic to the fullest, that unironically is a level 70 character with 2 div of gear, is so backwards feeling. I could have a multi-mirrored level 100 build that can't clear content, but then, you know, at like wave 200 in Tota, but then like my level 70 Deadeye with 2 div in gear can do wave 2000 as if it's wave 2. There's no difference, you know. Like, that's just so backwards. Not sure how they could balance. I mean, if they just made it so it linearly worked, that would make sense, but I don't know.
I mean, hopefully we never see it again.
To be fair, any mechanic that could stun you for 8 seconds, which could happen in Tota, is just like the opposite of fun.
When you were channeling on a totem and you got hit, isn't that what... That's
Yeah, and there was a certain totem mechanics would exacerbate that stun and make it like twice as long and things like that. Just sitting there for 8 seconds with my juicy nuts in my hand as I watched my screen is just like, I'd rather be doing anything else in life than watching that happen.
I mean, you could tab out. You could browse Reddit in that time frame.
Yep, you go to browsers, whatever, you know, you can do a lot of things.
Watch a TikTok, for sure.
Yeah. Oh.
Well,
you're back. You're back to me on the couch now. Where'd you go? You're just gone. I know the problem. Hold on. I figured out the problem.
what was the problem?
You.
Oh.
You were the problem. No, it's where I have the staging area was. Oh, but people were joining underneath. It was causing. It was bumping it up.
Oh, got it.
Now I'm actually going through a bunch of randoms in Discord to get to you.
Very nice.
This is the all part of the joy of the first episode. All right, you're back to being on couch number 1.
Sounds good.
Is it comfier over there?
For now.
Yeah. Got your legs out, sprawled out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just grinding some corpses.
In game or in real life, or what are you talking about?
In game, I'm trying to get probably one more craft in before the league's over.
Very nice. What do you want to craft?
Probably like triple T1, like Val Regalia or something like that. I didn't drop a single corpse for an influence this league, which is rough. So yeah. I don't get to make that. Also, no ritual-based ones.
Yeah. You need 2, don't you, to make use them?
Yeah, you do need 2. Is it 2 for rings, or is it 2 for all of them?
Not sure.
No, it's just 1, I think. Corpses. I do love that I have 3 quad tabs full of corpses and none... Like, that's not enough to do a craft.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. But every craft requires the same, like, 2 or 3 things also.
Yeah, all the tier upgrades.
Yeah, the mod tiers, ratings, you need, like, upwards of 20 per craft.
Yeah, unless you're trying to fracture haunted modifiers, you could do it with, like, 10 or 11.
You also need like, you need 3 or 4 plus eye level. You need 6 to do 30% quality on most things. You need all that stuff for most crafts. Fractures, duplicates, effects, adjacent effects, same type. You have demons, you have the other ones.
Yeah.
Not sure the point of the
Did you get
types.
any use out of the random corpses?
I got a use out of it. The use I had was I left them on the ground, and then as I watched them when I walked away, when they faded off my screen, that gave me a little spark of happiness inside of me. But that was fleeting. That's the same kind of happiness when you buy like a cheap gum at a gas station, and you get like 10 good chews, and then the flavor's gone. Then you're just sucking on a wad of rubber. That's how they really were to me. It was just 10 good chews on a Hubba Bubba as I walked by, and then nothing, and then just it was a shell of a candy that used to be.
Yep.
I can't take a load like that in my mouth, of that much gum. I got TMJ, my jaw starts hurting.
Yeah, no comment.
That's a comment. Saying no comment is the same thing as saying something. It's like saying awkward silence out loud,
Yeah.
Yeah, even that yep is enough. It tells such a tale,
I get it.
Fine. You should be a little bit tougher since you're from Wraeclast, the streets of Wraeclast.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. What do you do in Wraeclast since you live there? You chose this path. You could have just said a state. You said Wraeclast.
That was to be honest, I felt so on the spot. I just couldn't come up with a state fast enough.
Yeah. You don't have to come up with one. You live in one. Are you one of those people in Wraeclast that are in like Act 3 that are just fishing for just
that's
nonstop?
the thing is like, if you were in Wraeclast, like, what would the safest place? Where would that be?
Dead.
Okay, that's rough.
Yeah. There's that one person in Act 4 who's just like petting a Roa who's near a cabbage patch.
Oh, that's probably not bad.
Yeah. But then, do I want to be a professional Roa fluffer? Are my parents going to be proud of that? Am I going to look my kids in the eyes and they're like, Dad, what do you do? Uncle Steve's a gladiator. And then they're like, I pet the Roas, That's me. I pet the Roas near the cabbage. I'm not even allowed to go next to the cabbage. I just have to be on the other side of the fence.
That's really sad.
It's sad, but the Roa petting union's pretty decent, to be honest.
It's a life.
It's a life, yeah. You could have, you could be a guy who tries to get eggs from the mud flats, from the Roa nests, and every day he's just being chased by 8-foot aggro emus, just full of creatine.
I absolutely would be dead if I was in mud flats.
Yeah, because you have to walk past the coast to get there too, because Lion's Watch, and then it's the coast, and then mud flats. So you'd have to walk what is probably 500 yards, right on the coastline. That's like it could be an hour to get through there. If you're walking at a snail's pace, because you're not trying to fight 40 crabs. Not to mention, on the coast is just full of cannibals. They're self-described cannibals. Even Hannibal the cannibal had enough tact and dignity to just have a profession as a psychologist and then do the cannibal thing on the side. That wasn't like his main thing. But these
seem to know quite a bit about this.
Well, I can read. They have their name above their heads, So they say cannibal above their head, which is like...
Oh, no, I mean like...
What?
I mean like IRL. Like Hannibal?
Yeah, like the movie.
Oh.
Silence of the Lambs. Not Hannibal, the guy who climbed up the Alps with his elephants. No, not that. Not Hannibal the Conqueror.
Oh.
Hannibal is Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. You don't get out enough. You have to read it. You have to read a book. You gotta watch a movie.
I watch a movie almost every day.
Not last night. Not last night you didn't. You were playing Destiny with your friends.
That's true. I did do that.
Did you do good?
No.
Oh. You didn't do a good Destiny, dear?
No, it was awful.
You did a bad Destiny?
Yeah, I was not winning.
Man. You know, you can't do a bad Destiny in Wraeclast. Just saying.
Yeah. I feel like pretty much every Destiny is bad in Wraeclast.
Except for Defiance of Destiny. But that's in opposition of Destiny, you know?
Oh, true.
By definition. Could be the best amulet in the game. I think it might be. You know, there's a video I was gonna do. I think I still might. It's on my docket of videos to do. Let me run it by you and tell me if you think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay. It is called Top 10 Amulets to Use with Omniscience. Okay. So it's supposed to be the top 10 best amulets to use when playing an Omni build.
Okay.
And I have them written down. So number one, this is in no particular order. Okay. I have Extractor Mentis, because Mentis sounds like Mantis, which is the superior bug. All right. Number two, we have.
Over what?
Number two, we have Shaper's Seed. And that says must be potent because Zana is Shaper's child, so his seed must be strong. Right?
I'm not tracking what's happening.
Yep. Astra Mentis, and I wrote asterisk, see Extractor Mentis example, right? Because Astra Mentis is close to Mantis, which again is the superior bug. And then it also, Astra Mentis gives 300 Omni, which is good. You know?
Yeah.
So that's good.
So are you wearing this? Are you wearing
Number 5, Strangle Gasp. You can anoint 3 40% keystones for Omni. Right?
Okay.
And that's good. All's Uprising, the Delve Amulet.
Okay, it's July. I just had to check.
I wrote that gives you every 50% aura for free, which makes Omni better. Okay.
Is that what that does?
Ashes of the Stars. It gives 30% quality for your Empower. So that's good. Great for Omni builds. Leadership's Price. Omni makes your stats always 0. So if 0 equals 0, you always have Conflux.
It actually doesn't make them 0.
My Notepad++ says otherwise.
Okay.
Yoke of Suffering.
What number is this?
This is number 8. Yoke of Suffering. Great for Omni builds. I wrote Yoke is the powerhouse of the egg.
Okay.
Okay. Also, the white of the egg is called the albumin.
Yep.
Just a fact. Number 9, we have Ulnatal's Vow. Since Squire is best in slot for Omni, this combos well with the Squire. Yep. Makes perfect sense. Right.
Okay.
And finally, we have number 10, Eyes of the Great Wolf is the best amulet for Omni builds. I wrote, a Brazilian kid once yelled at me during a Dota 2 match that I need an eye to see an eye, which always stuck with me, and then he just shouted, ja, 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 and just lost the match for us. So,
Got it.
those are the top 10 amulets used in an Omni build.
Okay. You're built different. That's all I can say.
I am a rare breed. I'm a white male in America, you know, and that sure. Alone. You know, natural born, no rerolls, you know. Just
no rerolls. Okay. Wow.
No, base class. Yeah.
Very nice.
Unascended, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah,
That's
anything
a
else?
very good list.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what else there is to talk about.
Pretty much it. Well, thanks for calling in.
For sure. Until next time.
Yeah. And I'll thanks for late night and Wraeclasting.
Have a great night.
It's 6:17 p.m.
Yep.
All right. Oh. That's it. She's gone just like that. Well, that lovely lady was our first caller of the night. Not to say she's a woman of the night, but it is nighttime. Discussed some cool things. Thank you, Kelm from Wraeclast. We got another caller coming in here soon. Let's drag him in the area. Hello?
Hello.
Oh. Where the hell did I put you? You're almost in your chair. All right, you're in your sofa now.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, say what's your name, where you're from? What do you want from me?
So, my name is Muffin. I am from upstate New York. I'm a very casual Path of Exile player. I've been playing the game since Vol League, and basically I just play a few characters up to red maps, try to push a couple of bosses in the late game, and then call it a day for the leagues.
Nice. I like how you named a league that didn't exist.
What was it called?
Well, I don't know. What it was, the league that Val was introduced, or what did you...
Yeah, that's the one.
That might have been like Invasion or something. I don't know. I gotta double check. Like at Ziri? Like when that was introduced?
Yes, when Atziri was first introduced.
Okay, let's find out.
I
That
remember
is
the 4 booby money.
1.1. All right, which is Ambush Invasion. Yeah, I was right.
Ambush Invasion. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was back when leagues were split. So Ambush was the softcore league, and Invasion was the hardcore league. And that was also when they said there were 4-month challenge leagues versus 3-month, which is ironic because in the past 3 years they've been delayed every single time. So they actually are 4-month leagues at the moment, but not intentionally, just because they're so behind schedule.
Yeah, unintentionally bringing it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a couple of questions prepared for you. The first of which being, which unique would you most like to see come back in Path of Exile 2, and what changes, if any, would you like to see made to it?
The second part of that question is really hard to answer because I don't know the climate of the game. As far as, even just porting a unique over 1-to-1 might be too strong or too weak because I don't know what the game is like. No one has ever seen footage of a map in PoE2, so it's hard to say what even mapping is like. But just because you mentioned quote-unquote Val League and Atziri, the unique I'm going to pick is Bringer of Rain, which was the most quintessential Atziri killing unique back in the old Double Strike Wings of Entropy days. And I think it's still a pretty strong unique since they buffed it recently. It's just a little underrepresented, I think, but it is quite good at the moment for like a week 1 kind of thing. But yeah, that's my pick. I just think that the look of it, the style of it, the fact that you don't have a body armor on and you're dripping blood out your mouth, like the whole thing is so quintessential PoE. That look and that build type. That's my pick. Yeah, that's what I would pick.
Would you make any changes to it if it would come to PoE 2?
I'd like it to, you might have to make numerical changes. So it has 250 flat life on it, and maybe that's like an egregious amount in PoE2, or maybe that's nothing. I don't know, because the numerics of it could be totally wonky compared to what it is now. But at the very least, I think the spirit of it should stay the same, which is it's a multi-linked helmet that disables your body armor, and you're a gladiator with your, your helmet on and your, defenseless body-wise. I think that should stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key of it. That's like the most important part.
For me, I would choose Oro's Sacrifice.
That sword's still used, I would say now, but like very nichely Flicker Strike, but
Yeah, so that's the big change that I would like to make to it. I'd like to possibly make it more flexible for other roles other than just Flicker Strike. Mm-hmm. And the proposed change that I have for it would just be remove the gain a frenzy charge on Ignite line entirely, and replace it with a new triggered spell. So the spell that I have in mind would be a buff that stacks up to 6, and each stack would give you chance to ignite and flat fire damage. And once you get to 6 stacks, it just does a flame explosion around you.
It's kind of like currently the Goddess sword has a thing where if you crit, I believe you get a big fire buff, which is kind of something like that. But you're saying it's a stacking buff and as you stack it, it eventually erupts in a nova, like a fire nova or like an eruption.
And it
type
consumes all of the stacks, resetting you, and then it kind of creates like this like ebb and flow of combat for the sword. And this would like allow it to do things such as, for instance, Spectral Throw, because it hits multiple times. You'd be able to have really good single target with Spectral Throw with slow projectile speed, for example. I feel like it would bring a lot more life to the sword as a whole. Because I always loved the theme of being this like infernal lord, basically, with Oro's Sacrifice. And it's just over time the sword itself lost its use. Like it can be used nowadays, but it gets outpowered a lot by the new mods and whatnot that you can find on two-handed swords.
What about the meatball axe? The axe that shoots out a bunch of little meatballs when you hit things.
Oh, remind me which one that one is.
The Namahu's Flame, I think?
Oh, yeah. The axe.
That has a fire effect on hit,
Mm-hmm.
It's something.
Yeah, it would fall somewhere around the lines of.
But you wouldn't want the new Oros to have anything to do with meatballs specifically.
No, I'd rather just it be like a flat explosion.
If it had to do something with a different Italian entree, if not a meatball, where would you? You're thinking like veal scallopini or a chicken parmesan or a risotto?
I'm thinking like a nice filled ravioli,
Ooh, a filled ravioli.
Because when you bite into it bursts.
As opposed to, you don't want the empty condom ravioli. Or sometimes when you're making raviolis at home, one of them bursts when boiling, and all the filling leaves, and then you just get a husk, a sad pasta husk.
the chitinous exterior of pasta.
Yeah, you don't want to. No one wants to suck down the wet husk.
My second question to you was, would you like to see an alternative leveling method to campaign, and what kind of alternative would you like to see? There
are so many that exist in other games that could just be ported over, and there's so many that have already been done in PoE that could be added to the base game. I'll give you multiple examples of each, because this is not a new question, and this is not a new idea. And after 11 years of Path of Exile, it's a bit perplexing. We've gotten nothing. Even nothing to the point of where the other games like Last Epoch or Diablo or Torchlight just have it so after the first character you could level in the quote-unquote adventure mode, basically, which is like you could have that where after your first character you could put maps in at like level 1 and they just scale to you up to 67, like, which is where you'd finish the axe. Or you could do something like there was an old race in PoE called Descent, and there was also another race called Endless Ledge, and we've had things like Endless Delve and Endless Heist. Any of these could basically be used in a very similar way. You could even do a new Endless, like Endless Ultimatum or Endless Simulacrum, and the concepts are identical, which is you level and the mechanic is leveling with you effectively, or remotely near your level. At 33, 55, 75, you get your labs, right? They just auto-assign. at the breakpoints where you would get passives, they just auto-assign, which is the exact same way they've done it in previous ones, or like every 10 levels you get 4 passives until 60 something. So there's like 1,000 ways they could do it, and it wouldn't even take more than just reactivating something they've already done. It's like you don't have to make a new car, it's sitting in the garage. You just have to go put the key in the ignition. They just choose not to for whatever reason. Now, there could be, you have the ultimate unknown on the horizon that is PoE 2. This could exist in that game. That's possible.
Yeah, this could,
you know,
this could.
They're very prideful with when it comes to touching PoE 1 in whatever way, really. So it's possible that a change this, they would view it as this drastic or this impactful, might not fit for PoE 1, which is why they have PoE 2, to do things that don't fit in PoE 1. And then maybe this isn't PoE 2, and that's totally possible that we could see that. Yeah, there's no excuse, like, at this point, why it doesn't exist. You can't say, it wouldn't fit in the game. It's already existed in the game, in events. You can't say other games aren't doing it. Every other game is doing it, from even going back to Grim Dawn and Titan. Grim Dawn had a wave-based system that was the same, and it was alternate leveling. So it's like, nothing is new here. None of this is a new idea, or even executed in a new way, so...
Yeah, it's essentially just keeping the traditions of Diablo 2, but it's just we're so far ahead in the gaming sphere that it just doesn't fit anymore with what players are looking for in an ARPG, and it does lead to a lot of like people that have played the game for multiple seasons or leagues fatigue with playing it. Like, I know a lot of people that don't want to play PoE anymore because they have to go through the campaign again, and to them it takes a long time because they haven't done it like hundreds of times like we have through the years.
In general, Path of Exile as a game has not done a very good job at respecting player time, especially those who want to play more than one character, because the game is modular when it comes to builds, but you're still locked into your class, right? So if you wanted to reroll a ranger within a ranger, you could just buy 100 regrets and do that and rebuy all the gear and redo all that stuff. But if you're like, I played this ranger to 85, it took me 2 weeks because I work, 8 hours a day and have a family. I don't have the time to level another like a Hierophant as a Templar. Like, that part is unfortunate. If they made a currency that was like 100 regrets that let you change class or something, that would make a lot of sense. Even if it was something along the lines of they decided to eventually introduce a microtransaction shop, or like an MTX, or some sort of like not like in a visual kind of MTX way, but in a way like for doing like a service thing.
Pay $5 to change your character's class.
Oh, I've just moved myself to the couch now.
Welcome. A little personal, in my opinion, but
we're on the couch together. This is the one system, I know you called in from your landline phone, but this is the technical. We're going to fire whoever's in charge of this. Don't worry. We have someone else who's calling in that wants to say hi. If you don't mind. I think he's a friend of yours too. Hello?
Hello.
Is that Owen?
It is me.
Hello.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Owen. I'm calling from Iowa.
All right. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. So here's the deal, right?
Uh-oh.
I think, and this is maybe not the most popular opinion in the world.
I was going to talk about Trump getting shot. I can feel it.
I think that Path of Exile has been on an upward trajectory since Delirium League, and I think every league since then has been a straight banger.
Okay.
That's my hot take.
All right. To be fair, the only thing you can't really say objectively if a league has been good, but you can definitely say that everyone's personal experience will heavily dictate how you view a league. What I mean by that is, like, say you're mapping, right, on, day 2 you just got to maps, and your first map you drop a headhunter. that's probably going to be one of your better leagues of all time, regardless of what the league is going to be. Because your experience is positive. In the same way that if you could have played what many people objectively may have called one of the best leagues of all time, whatever it may be, whether it's Harvest or Expedition, whatever, but you just got, you know, dog shit unlucky, picked a bad build, had to reroll twice, your internet was going out, your wife fucking wasn't, you know, didn't want to give you little JO crystal shards on the weekend, and like, you're just having a bad time, you're going to have a bad experience.
Sure.
So that also could, like, you know, attribute to it. That being said, Crucible is the worst league of all time, and you're fucking wrong, and it's terrible, and it was a bad decision.
I honestly agree with the Crucible. It was real bad.
I think that you could say that you didn't enjoy Crucible, but to say that it was straight bad would be inaccurate. It added a system that a lot of people engaged with and enjoyed, and were sad that it was gone.
You know,
in the weapon passive trees.
Just saying, my ancestors in Holocaust camps were forced to engage with trains and showers. I wouldn't call it a good system like you would, but okay.
Now that's putting words in my mouth.
I don't believe that's true. I don't know. Muffin didn't come to defend you, and that just really goes to tell a tale.
Sure.
If you want,
I would say personally, out of the last 3 years, so let's say, what would you say? Exped since Exped?
Since Delirium, they've all been straight.
Since Delirium,
with the exception, I think, of Heist. I think Heist is a failed abortion and deserves to be deleted.
Archnem was after Delirium, yeah.
Correct.
Yep,
no,
so,
Delirium was then Harvest, then Heist, then Ritual, then Ultimatum, and then Exped. And Archnem was a long time after that.
Yeah, he said it's after Delirium.
Yeah. So,
sure.
In my opinion, Archnem, Toda, Sanctum, Crucible, and was it Scourge? Scourge League?
Crucible.
With the mirror dimension?
The mirror dimension was the Lake of Columbia.
No, with the dimension where you hit the button and you shift it into like the fucking burning version of it. That was Scourge.
Okay, well, I mean, you could tell. Those 5 leagues, I would say, were just misses, in my opinion. I thought that they didn't bring enough just impact in the way that the league ran compared to something like Mirror of Columbia, like the Mirror Lake League.
Sure.
What it was called again.
Yeah, no, it was called exactly that. It was called Mirrored Lake League. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like that one, the mechanic was beautiful. Like, sure, it wasn't very rewarding and whatnot, but it looked fantastic. And if you take a look at like Sanctum with the dark muted colors, Arch and M didn't even have anything. It was just new rares. Crucible also just didn't have anything. It was just press a button and put on a skill tree. It's a lot of these. Toda, for sure, looked better than the other ones, but it's still the same thing where it's just muted Path of Exile Act 1 colors, and it's just I always thought that those were the least impactful to me as the way I play PoE. Like like I said, I don't spend too much time every league playing it, but I do play every league. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, you're wrong, but that's okay. You're allowed to be wrong. I think that Toda was an idea that they overpromised and underdelivered on, sure, but I think the bones of that system was very good, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Crucible, I still enjoy. Or no, it's not Crucible, excuse me. Sanctum, I still enjoy the hell out of. I love the fact that it's like my decisions matter. Like if my build is skewed in one direction, I can make choices that make what I perceive to be downfalls for my build not matter in engaging with the content. And I can't do something like, say, Blight, for example, where it's a solved system. You just get the fucking meteor towers with the empowering, and it's done.
It's a bit perplexing that you say that Blight is a solved system, but Toda is the most solved system in all of Path of Exile history. The fact that the best build for Toda is a level 70 Deadeye that has the exact same experience clearing a difficulty 1 versus a difficulty 2000, something else no other build in the game could do.
Sure. I never played the ZDPS, the Uber builds going into Toad. I only played like a standard, regular, normal build. So like I'm not hyper optimizing, and so my decisions mattered. They felt good.
That
But,
build
like,
cost
I don't
2
have-
divines to make and took 6 hours. And it
Right,
invalidated the entire league.
I didn't spend 2 divines or 6 hours to do the build.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, in the same vein, you could say for Blight, you don't spend all your time doing meteor towers.
If you engage at all with Blight, under like you can make a decision to not like do the meteor towers, and that's just the wrong decision. I understand that, and I also understand that I was making the wrong decision in Toda, supposedly. But like the barrier of entry is so much lower in Blight. Like it's a few oils. It's maybe 100 C at most. And a lot of the time, the oils that you would need to make the perma meteor empowering build work, you just get them when you're doing it, and you don't have to roll a brand new build. It doesn't matter what your build is. You don't have to have any other investment in it. It's just 6 oils and you're done.
But that only works for regular Blights, not Blight Ravage maps.
Sure, but I also don't agree that Blight Ravage maps and that sort of Uber content system is necessarily good for the game.
It's true. I will. It's a bit hard to debunk what you're saying because the lens in which you're viewing the game is very small. If you're not
Sure.
engaging with the most parts of the content.
Sure, I agree with that, and I understand that. I think out of the last few leagues, my favorites were Sanctum, Sentinel, Scourge, and Expedition.
So you're only allowed to say leagues that start with an S. You can't say Expedition.
I liked Ultimatum as well, but that's because the build that I rolled to play an Ultimatum just seemed to not give a shit about any of the actual Ultimatum content, so it was what it was.
Wouldn't you say making a build to invalidate engaging with the content or to be proficient at it is the same thing as making the Deadeye build to do Toda that invalidates the content and is proficient
The
at it?
difference here is that I didn't set out to invalidate the content, I lucked into it.
Which kind of comes full circle to the same thing where it's saying, like, your experience of the league has been benefited by the luck of your choice, much like the luck of a drop, and not so much objectively what the league is accomplishing.
I never said they were objectively the best leagues. I just said they'd be
I
straight
think
bangers.
you actually literally used the words, these are objectively good leagues.
I said they were straight bangers, because they are. They're straight bangers. Start to finish. Every part of them I enjoyed.
Yes, every part. Except for
Every,
Heist.
except for Heist. Fuck Heist.
And except for Blight Ravage maps.
No, he didn't do those. He can't have an opinion on them yet.
Also, those didn't come as part of a league content. They just came alongside with the league. It's like part of the patch.
Aspirational content, yes.
Yeah. They didn't add the whole league being like, this whole league is just aspirational content. No, it's just this is alongside everything else.
Fair enough.
I mean, and I'm also not commenting on the fact that, like, of course, most people think that the transfigured gem system is really fucking good, and a lot of them are like super powerful. But that's like the same thing as like Blight Ravage maps are in that same category to me.
It's a patch and not a league. That's the thing that you're differentiating, which I often tell people to differentiate. Is sometimes you can have a good patch and a bad league, and vice versa,
Right.
and they're not connected. A league comes out on a patch, but it doesn't mean it is the patch. The patch is independent because some people just play standard or private leagues and they don't even interact with the league mechanic, and they're having a good time or bad time, totally separate of that.
I'm glad they got rid of Metamorph. That system is terrible. I hope that they axe Legion next.
I don't think that's going to happen, but a lot in Legion, and there wasn't a lot in Metamorph.
I didn't say that it was realistic. I just hope that it's the next one on the block.
It's very possible. It's anything could happen before PoE 2.
Sure. Sure.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about, or should I rotate out people?
Like,
Yeah.
PoE related or just in general?
Oh, it's up to you.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't have any questions.
I have the only questions that I have for Lighty specifically is how the fuck do you keep pulling all these goddamn champions and Watcher? You and Galt, I swear, have the best fucking luck, and it's fucking infuriating.
I don't even know who I have that you're talking about, to be honest.
Okay, hold on.
You could see the feed though, I'm sure.
Let me fucking look for a second.
It is so funny how it just keeps it there forever.
Oh yeah, I don't even know. Most of them, you could pull somebody in any gacha game unless you have the resources to build them. They're just going to rot effectively, and it's like I have other people I'm working on, so it's that those people are going to be benched until perpetuity, and then I'll probably pull someone else. Then that's more important, but it's irrelevant because I don't have any of the resources to fucking build them.
I am in the exact boat right now. Like, I have a backlog of 5 champs I'm building.
At least,
and
yes.
just every weekend it's like, hey, here's some more.
Yeah, you got Fiona. Fiona was good. You got Valeria. Valeria's great. You've got fucking Zillatu, who is also fucking cracked out of her mind.
Her I use her and the Pharaoh guy. That's basically the only Legos I really use.
Yeah, has
so
to.
nice. Combat is the one that he got. I got.
Yeah.
Oh, he got Comet. That's right. And then you've also got fucking A2 Ares. Like, it's disgusting luck. And Galt's luck is unethical.
Yeah, Galt pulled Big Pope.
He pulled the Pope.
Okay. I don't want to veer you off the PoE conversation too much, Mr. Radio Man. Thank you for having
He'll
me
just
on
cut all
the
this
show.
out.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in. Goodbye, Muffin.
Remember, 4 tires on the road, kids. 4 tires on the road.
All right, fantastic. Okay. Well, that was them. That was Owen and Muffin calling in with some hot takes and some different opinions. We're gonna get in someone else. Where did you go? Hold on. You're not even here right now. You went above me. That's the problem.
Oh, is there like a thing?
Yeah, hold on. I got it. You're in the.
Okay.
All right, you're sitting down right now.
Is it better?
Okay, you're in your chair. There you go.
Oh, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really pay attention.
That's okay.
that
Well,
good to how this worked.
what's your name? Where are you calling from? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, my name Def. I'm calling from North Carolina.
Superior Carolina.
And, yeah, the Superior Carolina, and I want to talk about one very important thing,
Okay.
and that is why you cannot fit 3 display cases right beside each other in your player home
In RuneScape?
in RuneScape.
Sure.
And because I feel like they sized them exactly to be 1/3 of the width of a room.
They do.
There's
There's enough physical room, but there's the houses in RuneScape are not set up modularly to allow you to duplicate different things. It's like 1 chair per wall. Even though you could fit 10 chairs
Yeah.
ass to tip, but you can't put them in.
It's completely unreasonable that you can't put 6 displays in one room.
In Path of Exile, you could put as many of the same decoration as you want in the same hideout in any order you want.
In the same hideout, you could put the same decoration
On
in
the same
spot.
the exact same spot. And if
You
it
could
has
have-
particle effects, they just stack up cumulatively.
You could put 500 rocks in one spot.
Yep. And it would be like a little rock
The entirety
mountain.
of your hideout limit. Man, we could pivot into that, which is how do you feel about the proliferation of strange hideout art?
Oh, you're saying people having like anime girls or little
Yeah,
fucking kids getting back
pop
from a
into-
ditty party in their fucking hideouts, and yeah.
Yeah. You pop into someone's hideout and you just popped out of some anime girl's puss.
Yeah, well,
Like-
I think it's inevitable that the hypersexualization of this sort of stuff just always creeps its way in. It's hard to avoid.
But like that happens. But then also, there's the ones that are good. You pop into
Sure.
someone's hideout and it's just a little
Yeah.
Gojo going,
Well,
nah, I'd win.
It's just like the advancement of any sort of technology in the world has been driven by 2 things. It's military and porn. That's it. So this is the porn part. The only reason we have VHS, DVD, internet is because of pornography. It's no different when it comes to Path of Exile. The only way you're going to get people who are proficient at drawing beautiful landscapes and impressive figures is if they could draw a tit. The first thing on an Etch-a-Sketch was a naked woman. Like, it's a toy made for kids, but the very first thing the creator did was he drew boobs. You know, what do we do with calculators in 4th grade when you got a fucking TI-89? You wrote boobs and you flipped it upside down. It's just, it's inevitable.
8008, baby.
All roads lead to tit. Yeah.
It's just... now I want to see what the military does with the Path hideouts, though.
Well, there's probably a
see the
QR
other
code
side.
that's drone striking someone in Abu Dhabi, you know?
Oh, no.
I've seen QR
Programmed
codes in PoE hideouts that do scan.
Using
Pipes.
Path hideouts to
Yeah.
send encrypted messages. They're writing the coordinates in stones in a Path Exile hideout.
Yep.
Oof.
We have we got someone else calling in that's going to join us on the baby couch.
Okay.
I have to set up this bullshit. We got little Kelm here with no voice because she's sick.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Cal.
You sound like a little froglet.
From Wraeclast, you know.
Yeah. Everyone else has said their actual state they're from, but you, by the way.
That's wild.
Yeah. Wyoming. I said it.
Oh, for sure.
That's disgusting.
I have to turn you up because you sound like shit.
Sorry, I can get closer.
Well, now I have to turn you down because you got closer.
Oh, sorry.
Well, now I got to turn you
can't.
back up because I turned you down already.
You can't
Okay.
fiddle. No fiddling.
Okay, gaslit.
Death was saying how he popped out of an anime puss in a hideout in Path of Exile. And we figured we'd drag you in because that's like you're the resident authority on that.
I was just I heard through the grapevine someone was talking about every league since Delirium, and I think that is a dog water take.
All right, so that was Owen and Muffin were discuss. I think the exact phrase was Owen said was every league since Delirium has been an absolute banger. And then he
Cold
said it
turkey,
was
literally.
objective, but then he said it wasn't objective. So I'm not, you know.
It's
All of them?
He said all of them. He specifically listed Crucible, Toda, you know, all the leagues people put in their worst leagues of all time. Pretty much, he said they were all bangers.
Those are terrible leagues.
Everyone's
Specifically
entitled to their own
Crucible and
opinion.
Toda.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say that like since Delirium, they probably have more hits than misses, but definitely not like greener on the other side. Like no shot.
You could use the player retention as a rough metric, and in those cases, you have like currently in Necropolis League is retention wise. So the amount of people who are actually playing the worst league of all time, if you're using that as a metric, like Crucible was, I believe, very similar. So even if it's not it's hard to say the worst, but it's definitely the least played. Which, if you were running any sort of business that dealt with volume and sales, and you just did less sales and less people saw your product, you would view that, I think, as an abject failure, right? If I was in the movie industry and I said, oh, my last movie sold 40 million, but this one sold 20, but I liked it, so that's okay. You wouldn't be, no, that wouldn't fly. Or, if, double the amount of people saw the movie, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's, whatever, but the numbers kind of don't lie. They just might not line up with the creative whatever of the people making it, but
15, I would say 5 are objectively good. So 30%, 30-ish% success rate on GC.
Yeah.
Which is rough.
It's a hard thing to like say objectively when it's like the only thing objective is the numbers. So it might not be a better league, but it's definitely a more played league, which for our perspective doesn't really matter, but from their perspective should matter. Like if 3 times the amount of people play Sentinel than they did Toda, there's a reason for that. Now that's like, the problem is, how do you identify what actually caused it? It's so hard in PoE because they change so much every 4 months. They have like never adhered to the scientific method one time. Like you could say, oh, is it because of the maps change? Is it because the drops change? Like, is it because the loot? Is it because uniques? Is it because the mechanics? Well, it's the problem when you fiddle. We just put shame on fiddling 2 seconds ago. But if you
cranked on every knob,
every single knob gets touched, every single lever gets pulled, everything gets touched every 4 months. How do you even decipher what is
Yeah.
causing what. Like
I
even
mean,
this league.
This new league is like boats plus all of the quality of life things you had in your video.
Well, there's like this upcoming league. We know that it's something to do with the Calgarians, which was Expedition, and we know that there's been like 6 or 7 little mini videos that are describing multiple forms of quality of life. And if that was the only thing that changed, you could use that as some sort of barometer for if it's a whatever. But if they drastically change Scarabs, if they drastically change T17s, if the new mechanic interacts with multiple parts of the game, if they nerf things, if they buff things, there's no way to tell tits or ass what has affected what. Like, it could be, every person could have a different answer. And if that's the case, then it's like, how do you objectively say what was the failure or success here? It's like, oh, this was a success, but only because these 3 other things made this 4th thing feel good. Without those 3 things, this 4th thing wouldn't feel good. It's like, okay, well, does that mean we have to change the 4th thing? Well, next league you change it, then you've introduced 3 new things that also may affect it differently.
I just thought of something interesting about this league that I just noticed it. I should have noticed it sooner. And it's something I wonder why they haven't touched on before, which is they're reusing a theme, finally, for a league. I don't think we've ever gotten, like, a follow-up league, lore-wise, as far as the lore of a league.
Scourge for Incursion is follow-up.
Is it?
It's Alpha.
That's right. Yeah,
Alpha time traveling. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
She went too far into the future versus the past, and basically she went so far into the future she went into the 40K warp gate, and she came back with the fucking all the bad.
I guess that's fair. I don't know. These ones just feel, they feel more connected than Expedition and just being Calgar straight through.
Yeah, I mean, I've been dying for sequel leagues because I think it's.
I've been waiting on Harbinger 2.
Harbinger 2 Blight. There's so many things that they have completed, like lore-wise, or there's more. You've like I don't know if there's, but those 2 leagues are kind of similar to me because you don't
like
actually
kill. Hell yeah.
Delve
even deeper.
But for like
they'll still self-contained.
Yeah, Harbinger and Blight, you don't actually fight the bad guy, is the thing. Like the Blight never goes away for real because you never actually kill the heart of the Blight because they've never added it to the game. Harbinger, you don't actually kill the Harbingers. You just kill their minions and then they teleport back to, Harbingertopia. So it's like they're so unresolved feeling-wise.
The Harbingers are just playing a great big MOBA. They refuse to fight by anything but proxy.
Yeah. Yeah, also, like, they have an entire language that we've never deciphered that is just, they love to yell at us.
Oh, they love to yell.
I mean, both of those leagues could use a league of its, and not for nothing, but that's something that's within the scope and probably desired, is if they said, we're not going to do a new league, we're going to take this existing concept, amplify it in a very simple way, and you're going to get like multiple new Harbinger fights and new Harbinger currency and new Harbinger uniques, and you'll run around and you'll just kill shit. And people will be like, huzzah.
There is like a pretty good amount of the Harbinger language that's been decoded. I don't know if all of it has been decoded, but the majority of it has. Yeah.
Me personally, I would be interested even if a league was just a repeat of a previous league, but it had, 30 to 50% of a league's worth of expansion on an old league's idea.
Yeah.
If it was just a partial league, but it expanded on a previous.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't need to be a whole new league's worth of content. If it just can give us, tweak on an old league with a little bit of extra new.
Yeah, tweak it. Yeah, tweak me.
Tweak it. Okay.
Yeah.
Come here, big boy.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's all I wanted to chime in for.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just mainly concerned about the housing crisis.
That's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understandable.
The fact you can't fit 3 jars on a wall is just an absolute disgrace, and I will not be participating in old school RuneScape until it is solved.
And honestly, I'm running out of My Little Pony figures to put in those jars. I've got the jars, but I'm out of figurines. Like, they're full. The jars are full. I've had to actually empty one jar into another because the liquid displacement from adding the figurine has caused overflow.
Have you considered getting a barrel?
I have one of those little monkey barrels, like the plastic monkeys in a barrel, like a barrel of monkeys.
That's not big enough. That's smaller than a mason jar.
Yeah.
6-slot map device.
I'm thinking
I'm
like
so excited.
55-gallon barrel. Like that would tide you over.
I don't even know if there's 6 scarabs I want to put in at the same time.
Of course there
you
is.
see, previously there wasn't 6 scarabs you wanted to put in at the same time. God only knows what they're gonna do when they start to fiddle.
It's true. Next league they might just, so right now, like if one scarab is 100% more uniques and you could use 2 of those, they might just make that 75 and then make it 3. So it's technically better, but you're using more slots or something.
Oh, I didn't even think about them tweaking them like that.
They could tweak them numerically and then reducing and raising the limits.
power.
Yeah, so they can make it even if it's just 30%, and then we lose power but have to use more. That's possible.
Oh, so if we lose power and have to use more, I don't like that. But if we got the same amount of power but still kept it, I'd be interested in that.
I'd say there's a snowball's chance in hell. There's no shot that we get one more scarab slot and they're not nerfing 20% of the scarabs we give a shit about at least. Because they've never just given us 20% more power in the history of the game.
Scarabs were just like flat binary things.
Yeah.
And I worry about that.
Yeah. But, to your point, Kelm, there's 4, you could do 4 add Exile scarabs. If you had the option, you could add, I think it's 8 different Exile scarabs. Because you can have 2 splits, you can have 2 pairs, and then 4 additional. So the issue is not the slots. You can be able to fill the slots, no problem. I just don't think those scarabs are going to do what they do now, since they're giving us a free slot. Because otherwise, every single map you run will just have free barrels, or free 100% more uniques, or free whatever.
Yeah, that sounds pretty nice.
What I didn't understand is one of them coming from the 5-way fight and one of them from T17?
I believe that's what they're saying. Yeah, I think that one of them comes from
It was kind of confusing.
It was very confusing.
It's from 10. It's a 10. The first 10 boss Maven you do gives one of them.
Yeah.
Or clearing a T17. Both of those unlock 1. I think you have 5 by default now. And the 6th is from one of those 2 mechanics.
It's kind of irrelevant if the bar is just the 10-way, because you're going to have that before you start using scarabs really
cheese
anyway.
The shit out of it, but...
Yeah, I wouldn't really worry about that. I mean, typically you don't start using scarabs in that many until, like, the end of week 1 in SSF.
Yeah. Like, I typically don't touch a scarab until I've finished red maps.
Not when certain divination scarabs are selling for 40 divines in Necropolis.
God,
so
that was ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's that's why it's like I don't think that all the quote-unquote fun scarabs, I think the vast majority aren't surviving. So having 6 slots is kind of whatever. I think for half the things that exist, it'll be worse or just no different. And then half might be better, but that better half might be just worse strategies overall. So it's like if, it's better if you're doing Legion and Ritual, but if like doing Legion and Ritual is just not good compared to doing back to basics and divination stuff, then it's kind of moot for a Trade League perspective. Because in Trade League, that's the ultimate, I can't say quote-unquote problem, but everything gets summed up into a value, right? It's almost irrelevant what mechanic you're doing, because if you're doing a mechanic, the net cost, and plus, and whatever the net, like, the amount you make is off of it, right? So if it's like, I'm spending 20 divines on scarabs, but I'm making 100 divines per map, so I'm netting 80 divines per map, or per hour even, if you want to say it like that, right? It's like, that's better even post-nerf if the other thing that might be technically buffed is Ritual and you're making 2 divine an hour. So it doesn't even matter, But people typically are hesitant to invest in maps, but even if that's the case, if like the scarabs get nerfed that you weren't going to use, it's only detrimental to you because you could have sold that. So like if you're not interested in running the 40 divine scarab because you're afraid to use it, if that 40 divine scarab is now 20 divines, well, you've lost that money because you would have sold it. So it's not as if, that only really affects SSF. Otherwise, all this just shakes out of that. What's the average cost of a Scarab? And as someone who's selling them because I don't feel like running them, is it going to be higher or lower?
Speaking of selling, though, what I thought
Right, SSF is
if
the
they're
correct
gonna
way to play.
tweak all the Scarabs and like lower the power, but maybe let you put more of them in the map device, I feel like they're gonna do that, and they're also gonna gut the nodes on the tree that give you
Scarab drops.
coins.
I think
So
without
you're
question,
gonna have less
way less.
Scarabs and need more.
Yeah, that's what I predict is happening. Is
Less
that the
Scarabs
Scarab?
need more to get less.
I think that the Atlas Scarabs are going to get hit hard, and I think they're going to tweak back to basics or just remove it. In which case, this change is kind of moot because it's like you're saying, it's like, we could use more, but I don't have 1/10 the Scarabs I had last league running T17 back to basics. So who gives a shit outside of people in Trade League? And only the people who are already at the top % spending a lot on Scarabs. Well, they don't matter. They never did because they were going to do the best thing anyway. So it doesn't, all this is doing is going to fuck over the little man, if that's the change. Now, that, I would say historically, they typically do that sort of change. So are they going to do that same thing? We won't know until the league launches, or at least until Thursday in the patch reveal. But that's like definitely on their vibe, is to be like, look over here, we've buffed this thing, and then look down here, this buff actually fucks 90% of the players, and then you're going to see people on Reddit doing some crazy new strat that no one has access to, and then that's going to get nerfed, which is going to just do nothing to those people because they're just going to do the second best thing, and then everyone else gets fucked down the road. Yeah.
I mean, if we go into another league where they chain nerf the best way to farm not only currency but just literally anything in the game in maps, if they do the this is too good nerf, and they do that 3 or 4 times, I feel like the league is super dead just instantly. That's what happened
maybe
this
if they
league.
do it
a single time. I feel like if they even do one nerf like that, it's just going to trigger the shit out of everybody, and everybody's going to be like, okay, it's like last league.
Within the first,
they're going to nerf everything and then ghost us for 3 months.
Within the first 2 weeks of this league, there were, I think, 4 or 5 nerf patches to multiple different things. Whether it was like the Exile, the Embers, the Meat Sacks, a variety of different things. How divination cards were interacting with certain Scarabs. And, people benefited and made 20 mirrors off of them, and then they nerfed them. And then people were like, oh, I'd like to use this Scarab or use this path for an honest reason. But you can't because it's either ridiculously expensive or it's already been removed from the game. Whether it was the Nameless Seer spawn things or it was just Devoted mods just operating and actually giving you Divines and Exalteds, they was nerfed so heavily that you just never saw them again, basically.
They
I forgot about
and they buffed the numbers on how much you got and then made it so they never appeared anymore. I never saw a single one that dropped Divines or
post change. I did not see one. I saw maybe 1 or 2 before the change.
Yeah,
I wasn't far enough into the game to see them prior to that.
And that was those. I think those rates ended up being something like 1 in 4 to 500 maps on average to see one, which is I would say if you're playing a couple hours a night, you're maybe running 10 maps, maybe or some maybe 20 if they're longer. But
I probably don't run 500 maps most leagues in total.
Yeah. That's where it becomes a question of what do they expect from an average playtime player? Because I don't want to. People use the word average player, and typically it denotes skill, but that's irrelevant because it really shakes down to your playtime, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're good or you're bad. You're just trying to play the game.
Didn't they say at some point that people that get out of white maps are above average?
They've said, it said something like that in the past. I don't know the exact metrics, but hitting red maps was in the top 5% or something on for Steam achievements and whatever. They've done some loose tracking as far as achievements and how many per league and so. But most people aren't doing red maps or definitely not even close to T17s. So for those people, is there an expectation for them to see what would be a top end occurrence in a mechanic even once? Is that because currently it's not, and that's kind of crazy.
I don't think they want that. I don't think they want. I think they want 1 in 100 of those average people to see one of those in a league and be like, "Oh my god, I found this crazy thing."
I don't think that's true because that doesn't really mesh with what they did to this league mechanic, right? This league mechanic, at absolute minimum, took like 50 maps to even get even just to get the corpses to craft anything half decent.
Oh,
and
man.
I mean, it was even a coin flip at that point. But like,
I'll be honest, I keep forgetting that this league had a crafting mechanic to it. I only interacted with the mapping side of the previous league.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. I thought it was a lot of fun having all the extra little buffs on your shit.
Yeah, and the embers. This definitely felt like a league where there was 3 distinct functions, probably made by 3 totally different groups of people that never talk to each other.
Yeah, they're probably duos, just 2 people each.
Yeah, because it was you had the embers, you had the lantern, and then you had the corpses. And there were 3 totally different mechanics that would attract 3 totally different groups of people to interact with them because they play so differently. And they really didn't mesh together too well. Like the embers and the lantern kind of did, but it would oftentimes cause more problems than it would solve. You'd be like, oh, I don't want to fight porcupines, so let me put on these Tahu Karoa mobs. But then you realize that, oh, fuck, those are a billion times worse. Like
that was one of the cooler aspects of the league to me, though. Being able to go, porcupines kind of suck on my build. Let me replace them with some slugs.
Yeah.
And,
I did clear a T17 that was only frogs and rats at one point.
Yep.
I would say that the lantern and embers in almost any other league would have been absolutely fire. Like, would have been amazing. But like, soon as you said, oh, it's a crafting league, and then showed us like this pile of garbage that is corpses, like, I don't understand.
I would T17s introduce this league or
this
the
league.
previous?
Yeah, this league.
I played the league so like I feel like I played the league a lot. Like I could go look at my hours.
Yeah, the same league they introduced Necropolis, the same league they introduced T17s, the same league they introduced the Scarab change.
The fact that they did
all that same league.
Because the Necropolis, the lantern mods on your map can add so much loot to something. Mm-hmm. And they did that at the same time they added T17s, which are just
and back to basics. Yeah, all the same time, basically.
I forget. What does back to basics do in its current
It gives you
form?
0% to 80% more map effect, but you can't have any like league mechanics or stuff like that on.
And then they decided to make
So you do that on a tier 17 with 400% increased rarity, and it ends up being 1200 or whatever. You know, it goes like, because of the way the scaling, you have increased on your tree, and it becomes more from the keystone if it top rolls, and you could have a map that has
base numbers on
so
T17s go so high.
Mm-hmm. Now that also gives them 15 projectiles and 1 billion % AOE, but that's what you're competing with for loot, is like that sort of thing. Yeah, that's the the price of progress.
Ooh, a cat.
But yeah, I mean, if the league didn't have the entire crafting system and just had a more fleshed out ember drops and lantern, I think it would be much more well received.
It did not need the crafting.
Because, or if it was just the crafting and then not the embers, and like they had to. This was just way too many half-assed kind of things. And honestly, the lantern is just like, should probably just be a base game thing, because it tells you what mobs are and what they do, and it teaches you about them.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Lets you see the mobs, and like if they have like a special ability, it's like, oh, porcupines, they explode on death, doing physical spikes. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you would I don't think I would make amendments on the fly for that sort of thing, but I would be maybe more cognizant to have my build have like corpse destruction if I saw how prevalent and felt the pain of like a porcupine more. I don't know if I would be like, let me turn on wrath or hatred instead of wrath for this map, so I could kill the corpses so I don't die to porcupines. You probably would just do that always then. It wouldn't really be the thing you do there. But at the very least, you know, we don't have. You were just mentioning playing last Epoch recently, and you died to like lightning cold damage or something, and then you checked, and then you like, I could do something with this information, you know, to like, yeah. So
I need to have a totem up to activate my res.
Yeah,
I wasn't doing that. Now I know to do that. And
we don't have anything even, and that's like very rudimentary as far as what it's describing to you. And we don't even have that in PoE. So at the very least, if we can't know what kills us, at least know what could kill us when we enter the map, I think is the least they could do.
Yeah.
But
another question. Lighty, how many corpses did you get for influenced or ritual bases?
In the entirety of the league I played, which wasn't that much, but still, I probably still played more in the 2 weeks than anyone, you know, most people did in their entire league, like a couple hundred hours, right? Whatever, like the max I could play almost by playing 12 hours to 15 hours a day or something for like that first month. I saw one Shaper corpse and I saw one Archdemon Crown corpse. That's it.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I just made one Parandus unique. Just. That is it.
Yeah.
And that's with having on all the nodes of the Atlas tree.
Which, I crafted one single item that was good. Everything else was bad.
I crafted 10 items and none of them were good. And because I was using fractured corpses, since that's how you start crafts effectively, for all the complicated ones, if they don't hit exactly what you want, the item is ruined because it's fractured some bullshit. So instead of putting on +2 fire gems that hit fire res, which it's like, okay, that's a dead item.
No, I lied. I crafted the one-handed sword for Dene Dead.
Yeah, to be fair though, that's hitting. That's only crafting half an item.
That's true.
So you're not like the benchmark for something like that is half an item on an item that has very specific rolls, and the only crit things is multi and chance, and the only speed suffix is attack speed. So it literally that's like the easiest entry, and even then for that build you only craft half of it, and it still could take 50 corpses to do multiple times.
I did mess up because I also so I think I had a 207% chance to fracture, and I fractured attack speed, critical strike chance, and flat cold damage.
Yep.
So, yeah, this 6T1 bow is like the best I could do, and that's still no arrows. So. Yeah,
the bows were the easiest thing to do, but any Ellie weapon was very easy to do, but it was not easy to make them an actual perfect one. It was just able to make a really good one consistently. Yeah,
the triple, unless you did the triple, like, I think it was like a 1 in 8 or 1 in 9 or something like that to get triple elemental prefixes fractured, like all 3 of them.
Yeah. The fact that they allow triple fractures to occur was...
You could get 6.
Triple influence fractures also.
Yeah, like just 83 fractures.
What's
I don't like that.
They were like, this will be fine.
And fractured influence bases is wild.
Well, the weird thing is also like that's obviously a lot of like power they're like giving you, but they're very easy to give you that amount of power, but then they're very hesitant to give you even a tenth of what that power would be as drops somewhere else. So like they won't give you currency.
Let you craft half of that, like.
Oh, not even half. I mean, it's like you can have it so every rare drops 20 chaos, and you'll never make an item 1/10 as good as that thing that's guaranteed for nothing.
If every item could be multi-modded for free, it wouldn't be that big a deal.
Yeah.
But instead, they block you out to having to pay an exorbitant price, and then get one extra crafted mod.
It also makes less sense for trade, right? Because Necropolis and Trade League, every character could have 61 items for like 2 divines a slot. It was beyond cheap.
Ridiculous.
So if like you're just gonna give that away for nothing, but then you're gonna nerf like Exile embers, it's so backwards to me because it's like, well, you're nerfing me so I can't get a little bit more currency here. Or like really the reason is most people just want to use it for fun to fight exiles and like drop a mage pool that's 4 divines, but like you'll give me what would be a 10 mirror item for 20 divines, and then everyone could have one infinitely. Like that was allowed.
Headhunters was something special.
But it just goes to show, like, that was acceptable for them. That's post 5 nerfs. They're like, yeah, that's fine. You know, that's fine. But then you can't,
they
like...
do things like this.
That's fine, but then, like, nothing can drop more than 1 stack deck at a time. That's so backwards.
They'll be like, we can't allow more than 1 stack deck. It'll damage the standard economy.
Yeah. But 4 divine headhunters, no problem.
You just introduced 80,000 extra headhunters a day.
Yeah. The fact that you, like, Heist, Blight, any mechanic that drops a divine, that has a divine symbol, like it's dropping a divine tagged mechanic, will only drop 1 stack deck. That's, like, the only outcome that can occur. Or, like, a divination Scarab. And of which 1 in 1,000 is going, you know, or should I say 999% of the time is going to be the one that just says more divination cards, because the other ones are so heavily weighted. So, like, 1 stack deck that's the limit, but infinite mirror gear, infinite headhunters, that's totally kosher.
This for Necropolis, if you didn't have, like, if you were just running a generic rare, and it wasn't 6T1, like, you were just throwing.
Yeah, I mean,
there was no reason.
You know, whoever's not res capped.
Something really niche, there was no reason you should be running anything that wasn't 6T1.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. People's boots were like triple res, T1 life, T1 movement, T whatever, and like a special mod. And it costs like literally like 4 divines to buy. You could buy that, or you could buy a headhunter. Those are your options.
If it was just like res and life and move speed on a boot, it's probably 1 divine.
Yeah.
It's probably 1 divine. I think I had a helmet that was like a special.
I remember it. Yeah.
Special mods they had. And then T1 life, T1 tri-res, and some other useful thing in the prefixes. And it was just like, yeah, well, we'll do 1 divine. It's like, oh, okay, sure.
Because that perfect item was someone else's failed craft.
Yeah, they were there.
Golden turds coming out, basically, as byproduct.
That was probably someone's, like, make a copy.
Yeah.
Or do the craft a second time, and it just didn't
That's the biggest part, is that every single... You're encouraged, right? If you were actually putting in good corpses, you need to stack a whole bunch of duplicates, or, like, additional craft.
Yep.
Or even, like, to some extent, people would just, like, if they're making jewelry, you just use the mirror. Like, the mirrored copy, or the whatever. Like, you don't do splits, because that'll split it.
I think I was running 2 different pieces of jewelry that I bought pre-mirrored that had come from a craft like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we have mirrored oils, so there's, like, literally no... The fact that you could duplicate crafts like that absolutely skewed the economy up, because getting all the shit together makes potentially 8 good things.
Yep.
Or 16. Like, there was somebody that was making, like, T1 life, T1 mana, you know, triple T1 resistance gear or whatever. And they made 16 or 24 rings.
Yep.
In 1 craft.
Because the adjacent effects, and then the column and row effects, it all amplifies stuff.
All yeah.
They were like, God,
you had to use if you were doing that. That's what I'm saying. If you were doing this in Trade League, effectively, because it's like what's the most disappointing part about a mechanic like this is the cost of entry is the same for everybody, right? So if you have a split craft, as in this is the 1 split corpse I have, and you're not using it to the extent of whoever's using it the best way in the most optimal setup, is that the value of this craft is judged by what they're doing, not by what you're doing, right? So the latent value of that craft is making, like Kelm was saying, 20 perfect items, not your 1 dinky bow you want to make 2 of. Like, that's the value of it. So it's like...
made 1 pair of gloves with a you know, 2 tier 3 reses on it, and you used an item a corpse that costs, you know, you could have sold that corpse for a divine.
Yep.
Because you weren't, but you were just like, okay, I'll just
thing.
use what I have in my stash.
How many duplicate corpses did you get? Like, additional craft?
Less than 10 the entire league. Less than 10.
Yeah, I dropped 2, and that's it. The whole league. I used both of them on 1 craft, and I hit the whatever the
I used
chance is, like
4 or 5, or it might have been 5 or 6 to try to make 3 copies of one Shaper wand, and none of them hit. So I left them all in the fucking ground. Like it was, they all whiffed. That was my one big craft of the league. Going, yeah.
It's like, well, cool.
Yeah, it was like a 1 in 8 to even have one of them
Now
hit. It's like,
now
all right,
if you want to do this again, you gotta
another 40 hours of farming. Yeah.
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 It was a very strange league.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if anything will make it into the base game. I do think that Embers could probably just drop, and it would be like they'd be usable. Although without the lantern, the Embers do nothing, and I don't know if they wanted to add the lantern. I think that they easily could add the lantern.
So. I feel like people would
It
complain
doesn't even
too much
have to
because
be
you can't
the
opt
lantern.
out.
It could just be a menu.
Well, it could be the lantern, but it has no positive or negative modifiers. Even
Yeah,
it just like
it
displays.
could just be you just apply embers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a little arrow that you can click to like reveal what's in
Would
the
you like
map,
to see
but it
what
doesn't have any
can
effect.
spawn on this map and what
Okay.
quantity?
I actually
man.
really like that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
and if you
had
don't want
a-
to do it, you don't have to do it.
So I was playing a little last epoch today, and I had a man. This wouldn't happen in Path moment.
Yep.
The current league mechanic, what it is you rock up to a guy, you click on it, and he offers you a couple things, and you either can hit a button to make him stronger, a button to make him drop, or a button to get rid of them altogether, and you can power them up like 2 or 3 times. Well, occasionally there'll be an egg, and you can put any unique item you like in the egg, it'll make it stronger. And so I go to do that, and I'm like, man, I really want to do this, but I left it in my stash, and you can't port a lot of maps in last epoch. And I was like, well, guess I'll just not do it this time. But then I go and click on the egg, and guess what? It's got a little icon. It's like, hey, you want to open your stash and put something in here? And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I do. And I was like, man, this would never happen in Path.
No.
They hate us.
Yeah, well, it's the UI in PoE league mechanics notoriously. Not even just the storage space, which this league might have been the most offensive in the game's history. It's very possible.
I had to use like 30 tabs this week to store corpses because
Yeah.
there's just
I bought.
they put an arbitrary limit on the corpse storage, despite wanting you to craft things.
Wasn't it 50 corpses?
The limit was less than the amount of slots in the graveyard, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Which was
I believe so.
crazy. But
It absolutely was.
even then, like in a game like PoE, like you're gonna even just loosely organize, right? But if you
Should've
wanted to
been
even like remotely organize, you have that plus the embers, and you're gonna need like you said, like 15, 20.
True. The
Tabs.
embers also didn't have nearly enough space.
No.
I was also storing embers in tabs.
And the worst part was the ember display at the map device was not only a different configuration than the stash, but it had two extra slots that were just dead slots
It had
visually.
slots in it that, like, one of the displays had slots in it that weren't in the actual storage. They were just different sized menus for no reason.
Yeah, I think if there's going to be a league mechanic that's going to require us to hold 1,000 items, there should be a near infinite storage for it. I mean, otherwise, just don't even store it. They could just store it all. Like, there's no reason we had to even have them itemized effectively. They should have just pushed a button and they went to the corpse pile, and you just pull them if you need them. Like,
Yeah, they did not need to be itemized. Like, they were. The fact that because didn't you have to have them? No, you had to put them back in the
thing. Yeah, you
had to move them
you
out of your
itemize
inventory,
them
put 'em
in inventory,
back in.
put them in your stash. Then, if you want to use them, you have to put them back in your stash, or right-click them to add them to the display. Then you have to click them in the display to put them in the ground. If you misclicked one, you can't pull them back out. You just had to destroy them.
You could destroy it, but you can't take them back. It's like it's a body.
It would have a shovel.
not
Like
an oil
we put a
spill.
shovel to put it
Like-
in the ground. You can't use a shovel to take it out of the ground. Well, that's where like it's kind of an inexcusable pitfall in their perpetual design, is these like weird UI functions that really just, like you're describing, if you just had a couple people who play the game casually, play the game for 2 days, interacting with the league mechanic, I would say 9 times out of 10 every issue would be resolved. And it's like, there's things you could want, but be like, oh, I would love it if more corpses drop. Well, that's like up to determination on like rates and stuff. But just like the actual function of the storage of the system, the interaction, like why is it the different size? Why can't I store everything? I mean, the first week you had to pay a chaos to itemize them. If that was if that was still happening, you'd be out 20,000 chaos men in this fucking league just itemizing things.
Yeah,
it's kind of absurd, like in that part.
And
And what's even crazier, not to go on a mega rant, but they did expand it to not remotely enough. But also, this is like the 10th league where there's been an itemized thing and not enough storage and a terrible UI. Like it's just a consistently occurring thing, whether it was picking up corpses in Metamorph or picking up pennies in Paranis League or in Expedition to pick up the small currency.
Is when these leagues end up going core eventually,
they're always
no longer itemized.
Yeah, it's always a much better mode. But even that way, it's not like good, but it's way better than it was. And nothing they've ever done in introducing a league after the fact, when it's the better version, is like impressive or, like, oh, I can't believe they made that choice. It's like, this is the obvious thing you would do. It's like, obviously you would auto pick up. Obviously you would auto go to the stash. Because you're just giving us a chore for no reason. And this is like the 10th league where they've done that. And it's just so perplexing.
It is, right?
You're stopping us from playing the game, like, to do this.
They've got an in with big wrist strain.
They might.
Okay, the end of this week, we have a reveal trailer, okay? And
I think it's Settlers of Catan. It's just going to be a board game in Path. That's what I want.
I just think it's funny because when we're talking about mechanics that we have to like pick stuff up, in the trailer of that's getting revealed, people spam auto pickup ? And it's like, how do you not see this coming? Like,
yeah,
you know what it is. They're gonna add gathering.
Also, the attempt to fix Bandit, the fix for Bandit rewards.
I saw them. Yeah, some of them are
the fix.
Some of them are gooder, but like it's really just strictly a nerf for a lot of them. Like, so Alira is the obvious one where it's like this is just strictly worse. I mean, it was probably the best choice, but like 15 res for 1 point. That's definitely a choice to make in the very beginning, and so was like 40 life. I don't think you'd make either of those choices eventually. Like, there's no, I can't imagine a universe where a passive points because of jewels and clusters and adorned is
clusters, especially.
You're out of your fucking mind. Like, a passive point is so valuable. But, if it's 8% life, 40 movement speed, 15 res, like week 1 or in a race or something, or hardcore, maybe. But, like, no, I would never take any of those for perpetuity. Like, there's...
I think the move speed one needs to be like 15%.
Which, the problem with move speed is like, basically, you want to be between 100 and 200, and like, anything slower feels bad, and anything faster feels too fast. Yeah. Like, so
hard
it's...
to control, yeah. Because
there's a lot of precise mechanics in PoE that if you move too fast for, it's like detrimental. You could argue like 250 or 300, but like, I mean, yeah, for a boss fights especially where you're playing melee or whatever, it's like you don't want to overextend or whatever, especially with the mechanics that give you stuff.
That was your first problem if you're going into boss fights in melee, but
yeah. But no, the value of them is a bit perplexing. I was expecting like a min charge to be added to all of them because it also becomes irrelevant since every build eventually
had... Didn't they used to have a max charge?
Yeah, max charge would be too strong. I think it'd be almost another non-contest pick. You'd always pick whatever charge. But like every build in PoE eventually has pretty much all charges if it's like any sort of endgame build.
So like if you had to set how much stats that they give right now, how much would they give? What do you think's reasonable? So let's go life, res, and move speed.
I think that the problem is I think that 40 life for 1 point is fine because 50 life, you would grab the 50 life mastery. Would you grab a second if you had the option? Probably, but there's like the value of 50 life stops once you have enough life, but the value of a passive is flexible for perpetuity.
I mean, if you're grabbing a mastery and like
I think life is the best one by far. The res one I think is the worst because obviously it solves the most problems early on. But
isn't there just a random node that gives 18 all res?
The mastery
No,
gives
they
15.
give in the range of 15 already.
Yeah, the mastery gives 15, but like it's more to the fact that res has a hard cap on usefulness unless your build is designed around stacking a res, in which case it's almost exclusively a specific type of resistance. So it's like having 15 all res is great early on. It's kind of the same thing as like when we had Affliction League, where you would using empty slots to get res or life or whatever, or movement speed. Like those are great, but then eventually they're not great because eventually you just have there's better setups. Now, if it was the value of a gem, like 4 gems equaling 30 move speed, that's maybe a discussion because you don't need that many gems, but 8% move speed for one passive, I'd rather take the passive on every single build, I think. Yeah. Again, unless it's like the limited scope of like, day 1, 2, or 3, and then, or a race or something where you're not going to have, or Ruthless or something like that, but like, realistically, most of these things I think get outvalued within a week. And I personally don't want to fucking put points in a passive and then take, like, I don't want to fuck with the bandits and then take them out. It's annoying.
That's the real problem with the
bandits. It's too annoying.
How much effort it takes to take that, to change your decision.
If it was just one click and it was like week 1, I'd probably take the res because that's the most important thing at that stage of the game is getting LEW capped because it's not mandatory. Like having, and we'll say having 100 life less because of scaling, like that's, you could just not get hit by playing better. Movement speed, 8% movement speed saves you a little bit of time for the leveling process. But after that, I'm going to be more limited by resources and maps than it. And be how fast I'm moving. I could just not take a piss break and I'll make back that amount of lost move speed over the course of a day.
So I mean, a single jewel socket with an adorned over 100 is better than all 3 of these things.
Yeah, but that's not a week 1 thing you're going to have. That's why these things I think only have value week 1. And then I just it doesn't have enough value that I'm going to want to allocate them than unallocate them. And I'd rather get to, it's not even just the value of it. Think about it from the perspective of just, I'm able to reach the important parts of my build, whether it's the keystones or the overall archetype of the build, and have it online 1 passive sooner. Like if I'm playing a build that's like a Mind Over Matter agnostic build, and I want to reach that as fast as possible, or like getting 2 totems, like I want that as fast as possible. Like, I'm just not going to bother with...
How do you feel about having to do 1 more side quest while leveling?
Did they add a side quest, or did they just add it to an existing side quest?
They didn't add a new side quest. They added it to the golden hand job.
So
see, that I would do no matter what on the first character.
Do like 1 extra zone.
Yeah, that's not like too big. If it was like the plum, I'd be pissed off. But if it's like,
oh god, the plum.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
So like that that's whatever.
It's so funny if they put it at the end of the Fairgraves quest line.
Yeah. It's at the same place. They could have also done the White Beast. It would have been an option. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. If it's 1 zone in Act 2, I don't really give a shit.
It's 1 extra zone in Act 2.
But it's also a zone that you're already going to be in, so it's not even as bad. Like you go to floor 1 to get the lab trial, and then you go to floor 2 to get the point.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a problem. I think that's fine. But overall, I just think it's definitely, this is more of a choice than it was before. But I don't think it's remotely enough of a choice to be merited.
What would you think if they just got rid of, like, moved both the passive points off of that, and then had a smaller reward for the base?
So, like, what are we saying? Like, if this was 100, if this is 100 life,
well,
is it worth it?
Do you know what makes more sense? Honestly, is just kind of what you're saying. Death is don't even give killing them being an option. No, move the passive point to the White Beast and the Golden Hand, and just say you have to pick one of these 3.
Yeah.
Because then you're gonna actually pick one. Otherwise, if you're giving me the option of these in the passive, I'm still taking a passive.
You could still have an option to kill all 3, and you just give Aramir a different award. He's like, I don't know, 30% increased critical hit chance or 90 accuracy.
The problem is if you're giving him a reward, it has to be. I mean, I know what you're saying. It has to be a permanent reward, obviously, but it's got to be something that's, I don't know, makes.
Other stat.
Yeah, it can't be like, quantity or something. It can't be something like crazy.
No,
it's got to be.
Damn. It would have to be like, okay, here's like.
If it was like 10% increased defense or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like this could scale 3, for multiple different builds. This is a choice, or like 2% more life and mana and damage or something. Like maybe there's an argument to be made for something.
Even if they made the reward smaller, it's like now it's like 20 life.
The problem is if the reward is so small, then it shouldn't exist. I feel like at that point, honestly, the real play should be just to remove all the fucking bandits.
It should just.
Because you have a point.
The real play is
you can
just
put
to
the point in res if you want to, or life or movement speed.
Whoever you side with gives you a passive point.
Yeah, and just make it a lore fight.
Just get rid of the weird little vestigial unique questline reward. Nothing like that ever happens again in the entirety of the campaign.
And it's also so unimpactful. Like people, like I've heard, I don't want to just like shit on random people, but I saw some comments to this, and they were like, "Oh my god, 40 life is insane." Or game changing, and it's like,
no,
yikes! That's like super fucking cringe. Like there's in no way is that insane.
All it matters for is min maxing. Like,
40 life is what, like a hybrid life roll on a random piece of gear.
Yeah, I mean, if you found a pair of gloves that were tri-res and they had 40 life or they had 80 life, I wouldn't. You know, I'd be just as happy either way. Be like, all right, they have more life. Like it's fine. Like I'm not gonna shit the bed.
I feel like what I was trying to get at is like, what would be the break point on how much life this could be for you to actually want it? Like 100, 200? You'd
have
At what point do you take it, no matter what?
100, you take it, but it's like I don't know you'd have to see the exact number on what like. So we're saying in a world where a patch exists right now, how much life does one Adorn Jewel give? And then cut that in half because it takes 2 points to reach your average socket. So if one Adorn Jewel, is giving 14% life or whatever, or whatever amount of life it gives, actually it's more than that because it's 7%. It's 7%, and then times 2.5. Yeah. So it's really like 20% increased life or whatever almost. So if it's plus, it has another stat and an implicit. Okay, so whatever that is in half, that's the value of the life here. That's what you're competing with realistically, because in Trade League. That's 10 divine, you just buy it, and you sneeze at that. Like, it doesn't even matter. And it's all a stuff, I'm sure it takes some effort to get it, but, like, that's the competition, is, like, a high-end jewel setup that every single fucking build in the game runs. Every build in the game pretty much is running multiple clusters, multiple uniques. Their trees have just fucking circles everywhere, and, like,
we're expecting Adorn to get cut, though, right? Like, we're expecting 100.
I'm expecting it. I'm expecting a lot of things. Typically, I'm always disappointed when I expect. So, who knows?
Your expectations.
Yeah, but we're talking in right now. If the thing gave 100 life, you would probably take it, but you would still eventually drop it because it's just the only reason it has more value is because it's flat life and not percent life. Because that flat life is then making your other 7 Adorn Jewels even better. Because it's a flat value going off of a scaled value. But if it was like, I don't know, 40 flat life and 5% life, like if it was both of those things, you would probably take it now, assuming you didn't have, if Adorn didn't exist, in that world. But I think 40 flat life, like as a casual, maybe, sure.
I guess that's part of it. Is like this quest was made at a time where these stats might matter, but now they're just.
Well, it's even funnier is because what they had
level 99, and if I push to level 100, I can go get my 40 base life.
At the time that they existed, they had the best reward they've ever had, and it's only gotten worse since then. Alira has only gone down in value because they nerfed her to where, from a power charge to what it had previously, which was mana regen, multi, and all res, the best of all of them by a fucking mile, and now she's just all res, so she's even worse than she was before. So, I mean, that Alira losing the mana regen is the biggest part of that probably. I would have rather it actually just had mana regen and no res, because then I think there'd be an argument to be.
It was just like a nice little dab of mana regen. I'd probably run it for.
If it was 5 flat mana regen
for leveling at least.
I would. Yeah, there's an argument to be had there, but no, all res is more important than the movement speed, but it is the most vapid of like the ones because it's the one that has the hardest hard cap. Once you have your res, it is a dead stat, right? And it's much easier to get to the dead stat of capped all res than it is to get to the dead stat of being fast. And surviving one shots is like anytime you've ever survived a one shot by a sliver, you could be like, "Thank you, Oak." This is thanks to your 40 HP. You know, like that's real. Like that does happen.
Yeah.
But the 8%
Like,
movement speed is like
I saw single digits on my health bar.
yeah.
Like,
You'd be like that. Then you nod to Oak. You say thank you. I've survived because of your 40 life. You know, like and that's
and
that
then
that
I
happens.
hit my war cry and I'm instantly at full health again.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the res is like so. In summation, like the res is the best early on. Then it's fucking worthless. The movement speed is the best if you're going to swap off of it, probably, but I wouldn't bother. And then it becomes pretty okay. Unless you already have movement speed, then it's irrelevant. And then the life is the only one I think that has any merit to take, but it only has merit to the point of when it's going to prevent you from dying, which is like nearly an impossible thing to put a value on, because if you just played better, you probably wouldn't be dying. So it's like, you know...
And, yeah.
It's like, oh, I survived that Exarch ball, right? Well, you shouldn't have hit you in the first place, realistically. So
yeah,
that's you know, for that it helps you, but yeah, otherwise, passive point.
It's a problem that there's other solutions to.
Yeah, because like a jewel socket is 2 points, right, to reach on average. Even if you said three would, but again, the second you bring uniques, clusters, and adorned into the conversation. Like, we're not even talking about triple synthesized adorns. We're just talking about 2 good mods and a Val Corruption, which is like, that is the baseline. So, like, what that jewel gives you, even cut in half, is like half shock reduction, half curse effect. Like, it's insane what it offers, you know? That's what you're competing with. That's what these bandits are competing with, is you're competing with, oh, all the curses do half as effective on me. Or I'm like less likely to be stunned by half. I cannot be chilled. I cannot be ignited.
Yeah.
Like the shock one's so valuable also, because you get that one jewel plus the Pantheon, you're shock immune. You have 100% reduced effect. So it's like that's the competition for passive. You know, and even at a half or even a third of the value of like the middle end of adorned is blowing that out of the water. Like it's not even close. Yeah. That's like 100% adorned. Again, with a mediocre magic jewel. So, and in Trade League, it gets to the point where it's like obviously a 150 adorned is a mirror, maybe, whatever. But like a 140 is like 40 divine, right? And then you go to a 135 and it's 2 divine. Like it's such a steep curve on the cost of that.
You would take one for... You take a 135, right?
I take past 100.
Anything past 100.
Anything past 100 is doubling. That's good enough.
Once you're past 100, it's all gravy.
Yeah.
I think I got 108. I think
108's a blessing. I'll take that. I have an 8 basically, so that's like. But yeah, no. We've been talking about bands for a half hour, but it's like the exact same thing where it's just the passives, even at what they've done, it's definitely more of a decision. And there's to take one in the first week, or to take one if you don't, like if you don't play a lot of PoE and you're just playing one build for the first week of League, grab the res, grab the life. Like it makes sense, sure.
Don't grab the movement.
I don't think the movement speed is remotely worth it. That seems to be the worst by far. If it was 8% more movement speed or something, like that would be
8% more would be.
Or if it was like something like 5% action speed.
Action speed, yeah.
It would have to be tamped down, but that would be something like much more in the conversation. But no.
If you're at 5% action speed, you're like.
But 5% action speed is the lowest.
I have the trickster ascended.
Yeah, but that's the lowest roll of 1/2 of an influence on a boot. Like that's just to show how minor that is. That's one like lesser nugget, and that's actually more than 5%. So it's like 5%'s like whatever. Like it's great. You'd want it. It's very good, but like it's not. That's a very small thing. Like, especially when you start thinking about the impact of, like, just 1/2 of what an item slot's influence is. Like, Rage on hit, an extra strike. Those are 1/2 of a glove. And they're, like, are applying any sort of elemental curse or, like, an exposure. Yeah, like, they're very easy to get, like, you're getting those week 1 on any build, because buying lessers cost nothing. They're, like, 1,000 to a divine.
Yep.
So... that's like how minimal those sort of things are. And a bandit's supposed to, I would say, the way that they're framing it, a bandit's like a more impactful decision than a throwaway nugget of a currency, which is weird because it's like...
I didn't think about that. Like, a bandit is typically, like, most of those are less impactful than one one implicit slot on a
One implicit on one piece of gear is more impactful than any bandit by far right now. Yes.
Okay, it's decided. They really just need to give you the passive point and the reward.
So think about it even from a Lyra, right? What it previously had, even if it had the mana part, right? There's a helm. One of the helm implicits is 20% reduced mana cost of attacks. Like that's almost always more because you have that coupled with minus on jewelry, and you can get your mana cost to 1. So it's like, or 12% aura effect, or 10% aura effect being a helm implicit, like, or a body implicit, right? 10% aura effect on a bandit would be an insta take probably, like for something like that, you know. But it's like, oh wow, so literally the bandits in the height of their even recent times is less value than a 1 slot's half implicit, like. Like when you break it down like that, it's comical.
Not even like
not even the item, not even the correct, nothing. Just half of an implicit.
Half of an implicit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. You would rather take just an extra slot on your gear that was a white item that you could put 1 extra implicit on any day of the week than any bandit. Like a little
thought of how they could
shorts. If you had underwear.
I don't want to say
white underwear,
but make it less painful. It's if they added a cheeky little wheel at the bottom of your passive tree that was like an ascendancy.
Yeah.
But it was just the 4 little branches coming off of it for your decision, so that you could spec in and out of it without
affliction, basically an extra.
Yeah, like in a
ascendancy.
little affliction wheel, but so you don't got to jump through 18 hoops.
Yeah.
To mess around with it.
You know what's even stranger is like
if they just reduce the friction, it would be less of a decision.
So a character's actual equipment breakdown is really anomalous when you think of the practicality of what they're wearing. So like we don't have pants, obviously, right, in that regard. But that aside, for some reason, like
the boots?
Yeah, but like like the boots, I guess, but like. Or the body armor, typically it's visually.
Visually.
We're wearing 2 rings, right? Because 1 for each hand. But for some reason, in a world where every single person wears a necklace, they only wear 1, which is kind of strange because people in real life, typically, I would say if you polled your average necklace wearer, I would say 1 in 3 are wearing more than 1 necklace.
Yeah.
But what would be the acceptable amount of necklaces we can wear in Wraeclast to where it'd be. With what downside? Is it something like if you had a necklace and if every subsequent necklace reduced the efficacy of all your necklaces? Well, imagine if if you wore 2, they each had half of an effect. Would that be too insane? Probably still. But then you go 3 and each have a third of the effect.
Then you could have 2.
2 different ones.
No, 2 what are they called with the oils?
2 anoint. Oh.
Well, the anoints would be cut in half also.
Yeah,
in this hypothetical, right?
For amulet.
It's easier to get your +2 gems now because you can have them on separate items.
But yeah, like would that
I kind of like
this
idea. Let's get 2 necklaces.
See, that's what I'm saying. We should do 1 league where it's like, oh, you can wear 10 rings.
Yeah, sure.
That's all I want.
That would be.
Think about how wild
cool.
the league would be, right? Like,
I don't even think it'd be that wild. I think leveling would be hilarious, but I think it would probably not be like that. I mean, every single build would be wearing 2 Kikuzarus because they would have curse immunity fully. Every single build would be, have like 3 taming, so you're res capped. Like there's like things you do with
adrenaline.
Death's Rush, yeah.
Death's Rush, you've got a Death's Rush on.
And I think that would be a really interesting mechanic.
You probably cap all your res with rings.
But I think you're missing the best ring by far. It wouldn't even be a conversation. The best ring by far would be wearing 10 Ming's Hearts. Because the way that each one is 72% gain damage when catalyzed. And
don't those all have minus life?
They do, but it's percent. So you can actually you can wear 10 and it will just bring your total life down to 1. But it'd be irrelevant because you'd have 1 billion damage. Unlike a level 1 blade fall with just one shot everything.
Those are all like extra chaos, right?
Oh yeah.
70. It's like gain 75%.
72%.
Like 1,000% extra as chaos.
That's the build.
And I mean,
what if they just go limit 2 though?
Limit
well, then I
2,
have 2 of them and then 2 Calandras.
Oh, that's a good call too.
10
Oh,
Kalandras.
That does. I guess
Okay,
the
see,
Kalandra
my
then
go-to-
mirrors. You got 5
my
slots, I
go-to-
guess, in a row, so it mirrors across the.
Eternity Shroud, 10 extra shaped rings.
Oh boy.
Just start wearing the shaper rings. You know, just
I think
pop off,
they should
okay?
do a league where they add pants.
Mm.
Oh,
I
that's
feel like that would be the more
uh,
balanced thing.
I mean, they could probably
Just
just
add
add.
pants.
They could just add pants right now, and it wouldn't make a difference.
It would just make life. It would make life a little bit easier, especially because they could control what mods they put on it.
Sure.
So they could
You're
just
making
put
them from
nothing
scratch.
crazy on. They could just have life and res and defense on them.
Yeah, the exact same things a body would have, but just pants.
Yeah.
They'd have to add unique pants eventually, but you know.
Yeah. Well, they gotta add like 3 pairs of unique pants when they.
Oh, to
release
start,
pants,
yeah.
But one of them's gonna be special because it's move speed on it.
Oh yeah. Whatever
But
that. There was
you
those
know,
pants in Diablo. I don't know what
the
they're called.
hot
The
pants.
waiters, something waiters. No one here plays Diablo.
I don't know.
Someone's gonna know. Someone who watched this is gonna know.
Diablo. Which Diablo?
3, I think.
I've never played that game.
All right. It's like fishing pants.
There would be fishing pants.
I'll figure this out.
I think well, while you figure it out, I'm gonna cook on Settlers of Kalgur. Because I think they're gonna add skilling to Path of
Oh,
Exile.
the one thing I remembered was hammer jammers. Those pants.
Hmm.
There's hammer jammers, and then there's also the other one, which always sounded like someone's gonna slip and say a racial slur, which was depth diggers. Which
Yep.
depth diggers.
Interesting.
I think it's like a pants you'd use when you're digging a hole or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depth diggers.
So jeans.
Effectively.
Jeans.
Effectively jeans, yes.
These are my special hole digging pants. I wear them when I go out to dig holes. It's like,
Oh,
how
yeah,
often
yeah.
are you digging holes? That you
Literally
have special
24/7.
pants?
All the time.
24/7, huh?
Hmm.
How many holes have you dug?
In my own body or outside?
In general.
6 today.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was
That's
the
not
same
bad.
one. I would dig it and refill it, and then I would dig it again.
Oh, okay.
And I would just loop like a little Monty mole.
How come you haven't found the treasure yet, then?
Well, the treasure was the hole I dug along the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Really, I'm just laying traps for the neighbors.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are your neighbors like gophers?
I think, I think they might be. Yeah. They might be coyotes.
Like bear gophers?
Yeah. Or like, I was saying like more like cartel mules, like a coyote.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of far north to be a cartel mule.
It's just my political alignment, you know?
Oh, okay. Wait, far north is your political alignment?
That's what I'm registered as. Yeah. I'm a far northerner. Yeah.
Isn't that just Canadian?
Oh, no. Not the snow Americans. We don't talk about them.
No American.
You know what Kelm used to call them, right? Ice Mexicans.
Oh, Kel.
Oh my god!
I think we
remember
lost
that
Kel long ago.
conversation. I never said that.
I think you did. I heard it, right, Death?
Like, I did hear someone say it.
Oh, boy.
I can't say it because it'll get clipped.
Clicked? That would never happen.
Well,
So, like,
yeah.
why are you playing totems for your league starter?
I think
No, I
we're
only play the minions.
I think we're losing connection on Death here. I think he's gonna
Uh-oh.
he's gone.
Oh dang!
Yeah, he's gone.
That's a tragedy.
Yeah,
Maybe drove under a cell tower.
maybe. Where did you go?
I was coughing, so I needed a mute for a minute.
You hopped off the couch.
Oh,
Oh, what the hell? Come,
Hello?
you're on the fucking table.
Oh.
What are you doing?
I can't see anything. I don't know.
Come, get off the table.
Okay,
Get off the... Oh, you're on the floor now.
good.
What are you doing down there?
So,
Just rolling around on the floor. You're covered in filth right now. Get back on your couch. Oh, good jump. That was a good jump.
Yikes.
Oh my god.
Well, thanks for letting me join.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Breach.
You may words of wisdom for the listeners before you end your call.
Yeah. So.
All right, she's gone. Fantastic. Well, that was Death and Kelm calling in from Carolina and Wraeclast. Interesting topics of conversation, bandits, etc. But yeah, thanks for everyone who called in today. Appreciate always having you. Feel free to call in the future. And I've been Matt Lighty. Hope you're having a good night. This has been a late night in a Wraeclast. And we will see you next night. Not tomorrow night, but just a different night.